The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. We're going to be starting up in just a minute or two. I see the attendees rolling in. We have our presenters ready, and in just a couple of minutes, we're going to get this started. Thank you all for joining us. One thing I will say while we're waiting to start is if you do have any questions, please use the question function within GoToWebinar, because if we do happen to run out of time, at least we will have your questions on hand and we can address them after the webinar personally. We're also going to be building an FAQ page on our website that's going to include a lot of the questions you provide, as well as questions we received from our clients across the country.
Good morning. I want to welcome you to our second in our series of what was originally 6 webinars. We've bumped it up to 7. We've added another webinar for this Thursday about store closures and how to work through that. I want to thank Paul, Scott, Mike, Nico, and the rest of my team for putting together these webinars on very quick notice. We know that businesses conditions are changing almost hourly, and we're responding to those changes and to your questions as fast as we can. One of the benefits that we have is that we represent many clients across North America and worldwide, and that we're watching data daily, and we want to use the information that we have and what we're learning and collaborate and share that information with you so that you can make better decisions for your business. We're here for you. We're here to answer your questions, and we're here to help you solve problems and opportunities as they arise. There's no real answers that are necessarily going to solve everyone's issues or problems, but we can respond in a diligent and thoughtful manner and act accordingly and use data and information to make decisions, which we're going to talk to about today. We know that month to date that our stores are 49.7% of our stores are doing better than average and are down now 3% for the month, and that 50.28% of our stores that we measure are doing worse than average and are down 38.6% for the month. We certainly expect that number to fall over the next couple of weeks, and we'll be monitoring that and sharing that with you. But in the meantime, there are actions that you can do, and I'm happy to have Paul Erickson talk about the rapidly changing events and merchandising strategies that you can employ. Paul's also going to talk about on-order management. Many of you may be saying, what do I need to on-order anything? I may not be doing any business for the next 2 to 6 weeks. But it's still an important thing to measure and talk about, and Paul's going to go into detail on that. And then Scott Smith and Mike Taylor, along with Paul, are going to focus on both our dashboards and a report that you can use to help you make decisions and to look at your business. So let's move on to talking about some merchandise strategies. And Paul, it's in your court.
Thanks, Mark. And hi, everybody. Yeah, I wish I was coming to you under different circumstances, but I think it was the Chinese that once said, may we all live in interesting times. And this is certainly qualifies. You know, we've got retailers across the nation that are trimming store hours to meet reduced foot traffic, focus on cleaning their stores, deep cleaning. And we also have a whole lot of retailers right now that are closing. In fact, I was reading that Ralph Lauren said he was starting, actually, I think last week, that all of his stores in North America will be shuttered through April 1st. And, you know, your store is going through the same thing. It could be closed soon. It could be closed now. Foot traffic could be greatly reduced. But we believe very, very strongly at Management One that even if that's true, your business doesn't need to be closed. Believe it or not, we have clients that are still doing business. And a lot of this, I think, has to do with their attitude. A lot of this has to do with what they believe they can do. So, you know, there are initiatives that I know you've all heard, like, you know, curbside pickup, home delivery, private in-home visits with new arrivals, free shipping, et cetera, et cetera. I think what Crystal and Nico dealt with last week, and I know we're going to have more webinars in the future on something that I think could be very, very interesting for everybody on this call, which is creating the virtual online store. That's different, a little bit different than e-commerce. It's an online virtual store that displays merchandise with live text chats that you can do with your customer. You're interacting with your customer, but everybody's at home, but it's in real time with a store representative. And that's not anything really new. Actually, it started, I went back and looked at when these type of virtual online stores started, and it went back as far as 2011 when Tesco opened up a virtual supermarket in a subway station in Seoul, South Korea, interestingly enough. And on there, they had merchandise displayed as if it was on actually a physical shelf. It was digital, and the consumer could scan the barcode with a phone app, and the merchandise would be delivered the next day. And this is technology I think can be very, very important, particularly with what everyone is going through at the moment. I'm going to add one more thing. I also think we should be communicating through social media the differences between our store and the chains. And there are major, major differences. Number one, you're part of the community. They're not. And number two, it's more safe for them to shop you than, say, Walmart or Costco or the local grocery store. And I would emphasize that, you know, study upon study over the decades have shown that the consumer would prefer to shop either online or in the store local merchants, all things else being equal. And right now, I think that's even more important. So I would also put on social media, Facebook, Instagram, you know, photos of you and your family and your staff, because those surveys have found that that's what people are looking for, a sense of community today. So I'd like to start with a principle that I believe very strongly in right now, and that is data can be a difference maker. Not in good times, not just in bad times, but in all times, because it is really, really important that everyone on this webinar understand we simply cannot fly blind. Now, I get it, and I understand that for a lot of us, the first impulse is probably to panic. Cancel your orders, lock your doors, shut your windows, get under the covers. But whether we're closed or not, we're going to need to review with our Management One affiliate our projections. We need to know our revised sales projections. We need to know how we're going to work the forecast. If not imminent, if we're not open now, what if we reopen in May? Do we have enough on order to carry us through summer? And by the way, we have to go through several assumptions. Do we have enough on order to carry us through the summer? Should we push back our clearance? If we lose March, April, even parts of May, should our clearance sale then begin in July, or should we push that back to August? And do we have enough goods? In terms of the third quarter, we're recommending to almost all our clients to save about 20 to 30% of the open to buy right now. I mean, we have to assume that in Q3, we're going to be back up and running, or this is going to be way worse than we even think it is. So work with your vendors. You know, this is really affecting them too. You want to keep the partnership alive in the coming months. And then also please start using your vendor scorecard. And what do I mean by scorecard? Well, I think for decades, we at Management One have been telling you to analyze vendor performance. But now, more so than any time, now's the time to really look at who are your top performers and who are not your top performers. And do we really need them? Because those are the vendors we spend money on. They don't turn, they don't sell through, they tie up capital, and they end up in markdowns. And that is simply something we cannot afford today in these times. Nico, if you want to move 2 slides ahead. So what we're really talking about is narrow and deep. Something that, you know, if any of you have heard my seminars over the years, you understand that I bring up many times a guy named Vilfredo Pareto, which is he was the originator of the 80-20 rule, which we have, of course, stolen as retailers. And we have talked about the 80-20 rule and how deadly it can be. The 80-20 rule simply says that in good times, we end up with 80% of our inventory producing 20% of our revenue, and 20% of the inventory is producing 80% of the revenue. These are not good times. And the 80-20 rule has to be taken out and shot on site and killed. This is not, we can no longer operate with that luxury. Narrow and deep is not something that we should strive to do. Narrow and deep in our inventory is now mandatory. You know, when we have done analysis and looked at taking deep dives into clients' data and what really produces revenue, what really produces profits and cash flow, it can be just a very few SKUs within a classification can dominate that classification. Just a very few styles and maybe a very narrow array of colors can be absolutely significant in how well that category in your store does. That's what we need to do. We need to zero in on the best sizes. We can't please everybody. In fact, it's like life. If you try to be friends with everybody, you're likely not going to be friends with anyone. Know who your customer is. Broad and thin is not playing it safe. It's deadly, particularly now. And the other thing too is tracking and using data, because I want to get back to data. Because are we currently tracking inventory and the fluctuations? And again, back to narrow and deep, that can significantly improve sales margins and inventory rotation. But are you tracking this? And how do you know? You know, when it comes to retail inventory, it's always been true, but it's more true now than ever. Less is more, but less has to be fresh. So work with your Management One and Retail Orbit affiliate and work with your planner. Now is the time to speed up the rotation planned in your stores. We cannot sit with dead inventory. We need to be replacing inventory very, very quickly. Tighten the assortments, the vendors, the sizes, the SKUs. 80-20 has to die and has to die right now. And we need data, and we need information, and we need to know what the correct path is. And you know who is the person to give us the correct path? An Australian named Scott Smith, who's going to run through some key reports right now within Retail Orbit. And Scott, no better person I could hand this off to than you in terms of understanding merchandising, understanding data, and understanding how that can help a retailer's business.
Thank you very much, Paul. Can everyone hear me okay? I'll get Nico to move over the presentation rights to me now as well. It'd be great.
I will switch it over for you.
Thank you very much. While we're moving that over as well, Paul, I couldn't agree more. I think it's really a just a critical time for us to know how to get to the data that we need. And you talk about narrow and deep. Well, one of the things that I think is so powerful about Retail Orbit, it is somewhat a narrow and deep look at your data. We are so overwhelmed by what we have available to us. We love our POS suppliers. We love what POS data can do for us. But oftentimes there's so much of that it's hard to know, what do I need to look at? Where do I need to look? How can I make informed decisions right now? So I want to be able to take you through that, give you a little bit of a tour of where, your decisions can be made now and how you need to pivot and move, and how Retail Orbit is here to support you in doing that. So what I'll ask you to do too is, I know you'll probably on your screen, folks, see a smaller image, but make sure that you've maximized your screens. We're not going to dig super deep into the actual numbers itself, but I just want to give you a tour of where some of this really relevant information is available to you in your Retail Orbit system. And what you'll notice on the screen right now, as I've toggled to, on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, I should say, the what we call the dashboard. So right away, I'll talk a little bit about the different forms of uploading the data. Retail Orbit has a very, very powerful ability using a tool we call Orbit Shuttle to interact and communicate with a number of the most key point of sale systems. That is a critical part. It allows us to have daily, if not sometimes hourly, updates on information coming into the system, and makes these dashboards very, very relevant for you to make what you need to make right now, which is very smart, educated, narrow, drilled down decisions on your business. There also too, I really appeal to yourselves and to your affiliates that if you don't have Orbit Shuttle, that you think about the tools in the future that will do that for you. But not only that, that you're uploading your data, if you're doing it manually right now, on a very regular basis, because it's going to bring to life these dashboards and these areas of the program that you can really take advantage of right now in these tough times. So on the screen right now, I've got the dashboard, and you know what, the dashboard, I believe, is a gateway to understanding the true data that your business is keying off. You'll notice across the top of the screen that there's first of all, there's a small percentage number. It's showing you at the moment how far into the month we are, and we're going to focus on that because the report that I'm going to show you, the inventory action report, is an on-demand report. It's showing you the data as it stands, right up to date. You're able to look at the locations specifically. You can drill down into your specific locations, into the categories, and into what really drives the business, into the classes themselves. So again, you can take that narrow drill down and you can find where you need to take action. On the dashboard itself, I think the dashboard is a good, helps you get a good understanding of where we need to be in terms of our different data points. One very, very important thing that relates, that is the key, I believe, or we believe, to really driving the system is the sales plan. We have literally planners working around the clock, real human beings working with incredible sets of algorithms to make sure that your data is relevant, to make sure it's accurate and it's worked on for you to be guided. So that sales plan intertwines into everything that we do. You'll see on the top left-hand corner here, the first square is the actual sales, the sales to date. But right underneath that is the plan. Now remember, the sales plan is tightly intertwined with your expenses in your business as well, with the break-even part of your business. So it knows, the sales plan knows what it is going to take for your business to be optimally profitable. So in saying that, when you're looking at a time like this, when you're looking at this being, so changing and so dynamic, you've got one thing that you can hold on to, which is, here's the plan, here's where we are. How do we have to move? How do we have to shake accordingly to those differentiating factors? There's going to be a very significant set of periods to look at now. Both Mark and Paul have spoken to, what are things going to look like if we're having closures right now in March and April? Then we're going to be looking at that next period of May to June, which is where the demand might start to increase and we need to be back on our toes again. Then we might be looking at 4, where there might be a distribution issue, and we've got to have challenges there as well. These tools will allow you to push out and look at those periods of time. As I said before, you know, we love our point of sale systems, but the point of sale system, for all its greatness, is a look in the rearview mirror. It's looking back at what happened in the past. What a merchandise plan is, what Retail Orbit is a look into the future, is projecting and pushing towards that future and making decisions in that way. So the sales plan, as you see here, you know, is really the thing that we're keying off. Where are we according to plan right now? In this particular case, we're 37% into the month, and we're moving, and our trend is moving towards 71% of the total goal. So we really want to kind of focus on where we are on the goal, where we are and where we're moving to, and how we need to move and adjust. Okay, we also look at we're producing a markdown goal, another very relevant factor. You know, Paul talked about the fact that we should potentially, or may potentially, be moving off the our markdowns, or our typical cadence of markdowns. So we have a plan. How do we divert from plan? What actions do we need to take? You know, these dashboards will show you where you were against previous years, where you are against plan in a bigger scope of things. And very, very importantly, again, as I take your eyes down to the left-hand side, you're going to see where your inventory is. This is your inventory footprint right now. You can look at it by class, by category, and what the plan, where the plan needs to be. You'll see this business right now is 97% on plan. It's very finely tuned into where it needs to be inventory wise, but we are trending to have an inventory that will be lower. And we see our last year's results as well. So as I said, you know, you really, this is your guide. This is the guide for you at the time to be able to kind of stay on point, inventory wise, sales wise, markdown wise, inflow wise, as I come across the screen here. Very importantly, what are our inflow goals? How do we need to adjust them? The dashboards, this very simple dashboard can drive you to those main numbers. Freshness factor. Paul talked about the freshness factor in terms of, like, you're now more than ever, your inventory is going to need to be relevant for the moment that you're in. Well, this dashboard is going to give you that understanding. Freshness is very simply a percentage of your inventory that you've brought in over a period of time divided by the inventory you own at the moment. So it's really giving you an understanding of how new, the newness of your product. And then the margins.
Scott, can I interject something?
Sure.
Yeah, if you could roll down the screen a little bit. This is relevant data because it's from a real client through yesterday. We just changed the name. I mean, roll it up the other way. I'm sorry.
Okay, roll it up. Yep.
You know, and you can see that they're at 273,000 for the month. Their original plan was 744. They're trended to 530. Last year they did 700, and it's quite possible that even the 530 is going to not make it because business could tail off over the next 2 weeks as well. But at least you've got a benchmark to measure that against, and you can look at what your markdowns are, and you can look at what your margins are to date, and you can look at your freshness. You can also look at each location. You can look at specific categories if you wanted to zero down. This gives you a global look at your business through a dashboard that allows you to see where was I, where am I trending, and forecast out where you think you might be. No one knows what the next 2 weeks are going to be, but you do know, for example, what you're going to market, what you're going to do. This particular client had already committed to a marketing program on Friday, and stuff hit the store, their clients on Monday, and got a lot of callbacks from clients. So you've got your own individual activities that you're working with, but this dashboard gives you a very quick global look and snapshot of what your business looks like today. I'm sorry for
no, absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's a perfect segue, Mark, into drilling into.
Scott, let me make one other comment too, because this is really interesting stuff as I'm looking at that. This is Paul. You know, one of the things that I would look at just from the dashboard, as Scott pointed out, is there some things that you would be, as a retailer, what would we look at? Number one, as Mark pointed out, we're 37% away from plan, and we're trending below last year and below plan. We're also trending below last year and below plan on our markdowns. Those two things may have something to go together. Next thing was I look at the freshness, 76%. This is a high fashion store. May seem fresh to a lot of people on this call, but what I was talking about in narrow and deep, it's not. They're starting to get the inventory starting to age somewhat, which is also related to lack of markdowns and sales diminishing. The inventory, by the way, is almost where we should be. So we're full up on inventory. We're slower on sales. We're slower on markdowns, and the inventory is getting old. But nothing that we just said had anything to do with the margins. And if we're running our business around margins, then that's a problem, because the margins aren't the problem, but almost every other, there are other warning signs that you can see on this first page, just right there through those graphs.
Thanks, Paul. And that is a great segue into the, this next step of the action, which is to drive into, what we think is a very important and concise report, which is the inventory action report. I'm going to just quickly move you through that to show you where to find that report, and we'll have a look at what that delivers as well. Again, a report that's going to give you these, up-to-date points of reference with your data and narrowing down into what you need to really focus on. So I'm clicking on the left-hand side over to the reports tab, and I'll just get it down to size here for you. So one of the things that is available to you, and again, you'll hear all of us talk about these relevant periods of time. The reason that we wanted to show you this report specifically today is because you can drill into these relevant periods of time. What we're going to look at right now is the current month plus one, this March and April period. Okay, this key period that we're all in right now. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so if we come up to the, kind of the middle right-hand side, you'll see that you can create a new report. And when we create that new report, we're going to come down and choose the inventory action. With the inventory action, you've got lots of different options in terms of the way you see it. I'm going to stick to class, but you can bring your child classes into play. You can view by location. For a buying sense, you can look at your retail open to buy versus your cost open to buy. I'm going to choose cost at this particular scenario. Now, here is where it's really relevant. You can look at current plus one. What this is doing is this is going to push out your open to buy. This is going to show you what you have available to you, or show you, let's say at the moment, what you have in front of you in terms of purchase orders and what you have in front of you in terms of open to buy, so you can make the key decisions that you need to make. I was sitting down with one of our retailers yesterday, and this was the key report that we were looking at to see, where do we need to back off? Where do we need to keep pushing? Let's make our speculations based on where we need to go, but we were drilling into this key report. I'm going to take plus one, and I'm going to push the report into the system. Now, I've actually got that report. You can view these reports. You can look at these reports in a PDF version as well. I've got one that I prepared earlier, just like on the TV. So again, I'm not going to drill directly into the numbers. Mark and Paul might want to drive into. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of these numbers. Hopefully, you can see on your screen reasonably well. But when we push into this inventory action report, you'll see that we have immediately. I'm going to put on my pointer here right now so we can have a look around. You'll see that straight away this is an 11-day, in this particular case, an 11-day progress report. It's current month plus one. Okay, so I'm just going to go across this screen, and you'll see, first of all, what is the planned sales, what are we trending to, and what are our actual sales so far. And you're going to see this drilled all the way through the locations and through every classification in the business. You're going to see the markdowns. Where am I at this point of markdowns? What have I taken to get to these numbers that I need to get to? Most importantly, you're going to see the current inventory position versus the planned inventory position versus where I'm trending to. And I'll talk a little bit about trending and revision in a minute here as well, but you're going to see your inflow. Remember, we talked about it in the dashboards. How much have I flowed in? What's the actual inflow versus the revision of inflow that were required versus the trend. Now let's talk a little bit about that revision and trending. And I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. The revision in open to buy, in looking at inflow, in looking at the sales, is simply the plan. We're basically saying that to have a revised sales plan or a revised open to buy is about still assuming that we're going to get to the planned sales, still assuming that we're going to meet the planned markdowns, assuming that the business is going to effectively catch up this month, or if it's over or under, it's hitting that number. So revising you back to what we would normally expect the business to do from the plan. The trended open to buy, or the trended inflow, is the number that the cadence of which we are moving so far in the business, and it is projecting out to reach that cadence. Now, this is a really critical area for you to look at and toggle and review between these two numbers. Right now, the trend is going to be very important. In mid-month, we're looking at a trend that potentially is going down significantly, and the revision may not be the reality of where we're going to go with the business. We might not see ourselves getting back to plan, so we might want to take specific notice of the trend, specific notice of where that's going to put us in terms of our inventory position, in terms of our sales plan, and then ultimately our expenses and our revenue. So that's a very important thing to look at. So you want to be sitting down with your consultant, with your affiliate right now, and reviewing your position between revised and trended, reviewing your position for the current month and the current month plus one to see where you are at the moment, and then pushing this report out to look at how you're going to lie, where you're going to sit, to start to make those decisions class by class.
Scott?
Paul and Mark, yeah, jump on in.
Scott, would you highlight, would you just take a peek at 120? The fashion denim category.
Class 120.
No, Scott. Just go look at fashion denim. There you go. Thank you, my friend. So, okay, so this is something that is really, really important that data is telling us. So one of the things Scott mentioned is that we have a plan on the left on fashion denim, which is 33,000. And by the way, this is the store that, like we all are experiencing, sales declines. I think it's really important to talk about that. Sales declines are not happening everywhere in your business, and there are certain still runners. This gets back to my narrow and deep concept. Our trend right now in fashion denim is what, Scott? $45,000. Right there. So right now we're trending at $45,000 based on. So we're there. Just going. We're going to kill the plan. But the only thing that will stop us from killing the plan isn't necessarily maybe traffic, but could be the inventory quantity itself. So trend the inventory, Scott. Go over and show them where we're going to be in inventory. 52,000. So I know everybody on this call are great retailers, but a 95% sell-through is even a lot to ask for you guys. This will slow down. Fashion denim will slow down as the inventory becomes depleted and becomes broken. And that is exactly what this is showing. Much of the data that Scott's sharing with you is not necessarily dealing with what's happening as of today, but what's happening, what will happen a week or two from now, even in the slowdown that we're looking at now. This is directly what I was talking about, understanding and focusing on where you need to be deeper and narrower. And I'm quite sure Scott would, it's not up for me to castigate ladies' undergarments. But if we go down to 220 and look at ladies' undergarments, Scott, if you just show them that. Right now, our trended sales this month is $1,195, which is fine. It's better than the plan. But Scott, our trended inventory is $14,000. Ladies and gentlemen, in normal times, that's not a good idea. In times like this, it's a really bad idea. And we may be trying to please everybody, and we end up pleasing no one. This report that Scott is showing you is actually showing you on one page opportunity and problems. And that's why this is a critical report. And that's why data today is even more important than normal. And I'll shut up now, Scott, sorry.
No, but it's a great point, Paul. And so I think you've really highlighted for the folks, look at what we're looking at here. We're looking at a significant business, and we're able to pull those key points out off one page. Like I'm still resonating, Paul, with narrow and deep, because I think it's so relevant with what we're talking about on these reports right now. Making fast decisions, moving quickly. And you showed a great example there of how we can push around even one page, on this inventory action report to be able to toggle, move, and take action. The thing with what we do is we eliminate the confusion for you by driving down into these key classes and giving you the ability to drive in and make these decisions off key classes, which is what you see on this page. This is why I love the inventory action report, because it's about action. With that, Nico, I think we'll hand it back over to you. I think that there's some further slides and possibly open up for some questions.
Will do.
Yeah, we did get a question out from an attendee. Should we clean out all current sale merchandise by selling it 100% or putting in distress to have a realistic open to buy number for current merchandise? So I think if I'm asking this question, if I'm responding to this question correctly, we've got a certain amount of old inventory. Should we take a look at all that old inventory, move it into a distress class so we can really get a clear picture of what is good current effective inventory? And I think overall that's a good that's a good plan of attack to have. I think if anything, you want to be looking at your inventory. We're going to be talking on Thursday about some marketing ideas, and I think that would be a good time to bring that up. But in terms of using your inventory and making sure you have a pretty good assessment of what's effective and good at this point is important. And I think a lot of that goes back to how fresh your inventory is. On that on the first slide that Scott shared with you on the dashboard, and Paul pointed out that 76% was fresh within a certain period of time. That means you're sitting with some underlying inventory that needs to be understood and dealt with. Paul, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's great, Mark. I'll just add this. A lot of what we've been talking about today, we could have talked about 2 years ago. And under difficult conditions, it's all the more important to have good, sound, make good, sound business decisions based on facts and data. And under today's conditions, it's more important than ever. So I'll just add that.
Thank you. I want to, obviously, it sometimes I feel like it sounds self-serving. We put a lot of time and effort into creating good plans and using data to make decisions. And oftentimes data is, what we learn through data is counterintuitive to what we think based on what we read in the press and we hear from other people and general conversation. And I would encourage all of you strongly to use the data that we gather and collect for you. There's lots of great stuff on Retail Orbit, from the data entry screens to the reports, to really look at and examine your business. And one of the things that's been surprising to me is that the fall off in business, although in some places it's been significant, but for the most part, there are areas of opportunity. I think back to 2008 when the recession hit. We scanned our universe to find places that there was really opportunity and people were still buying. We're at full margin, no less. And those things do exist, and we identified those. We're going to be working harder to pull data out of our system to share that information with you, and we're going to be posting that to our clients on our website. We've got a rapidly evolving situation. The presence of actual real-time data is essential for decisions that'll mitigate negative effects to your business. I can watch the news and get depressed, and then I can go to our data and feel like, wow, things are happening. We've set up a coronavirus channel for our affiliates to share information. And they're sharing what clients are doing, not always naming the clients, but ideas and sharing ideas. And it's certainly been encouraging for me and refreshing for me to see a lot of our clients and a lot of retailers out there who are just demonstrating real Yankee ingenuity and finding creative ways to reach out to their customers and find ways to do business. I love the boxing glove. Erin did a great job. Erin Prater King is new to our team, and she just found a great slide here with boxing gloves. I love this. How willing are you willing to fight for your business? I find knowledge is very liberating. And when you look at your information and your data, sometimes it's bad. And sometimes, oh my gosh, you really can't look at last year anymore. You've really got to look, and you can't look at plan at all, but you can look at trend, and you can look at opportunity, and you can look at things that you might be able to sell, and you can look at ways you can reach your customer. And you can, people are still, they have nothing to do. I mean, people have, and there's still people, people are at home thinking about things and spending their time. You have an opportunity to reach out to them, talk to them, keep them involved in your community. When this ends, or as this begins to tail off, it's just beginning to peak. But as this tails off, you want to stay connected to your community, and we want to stay connected to you. I love this quote from General and President Dwight D. Eisenhower. It's not the dog in the fight, it's the fight in the dog. And when times get tough, Vince Lombardi said the tough get going, and I think there's a lot of value in that. We can't give up. We can't lose our confidence. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe in our community. We have to believe in our country. We have to believe in our ability to create opportunity and do things. There are people working. I read that Amazon added 100,000 jobs. There are still people out there creating a living, and we're going to do everything we can to support you, feed you information, give you ideas to help you fight this war and to help you fight in this war. We can win this. We will win this, but we've got to stay involved and support each other. As I said earlier, we're going to have a bonus section. Again, it's going to be your store may be closed, but your business isn't. We're going to have Crystal from Crystal Media again with us. We're going to be spending the next couple of days putting that webinar together. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, sign up to receive updates and data, which we update every day. And you can go to www.management-one.com. We also have a blog that Nico does a great job keeping updated. So keep the faith, keep fighting, don't give up. Look at your data, look for opportunities. We're here, your affiliates are here. You can call us anytime. So we've got questions or thoughts or anything you want to ask, put it down, and one of us will do our best to give you the best answer we can.
Yeah, we actually already have some. One of the ones that I'm seeing, people are asking, how do they sign up for the Thursday webinar? Well, it's not actually ready for sign up yet. As soon as the link is ready, this came about very last minute due to the changing environment, but we are going to be putting that link up on the landing page with the other sessions as well. So we will keep you notified on that.
And we'll send an email blast out to everybody that's on this anyway, right?
Correct. I do have a question from Michelle Varon. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Do I need to have all of my POs entered into the system to best use the forecasting reports?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. We've always looked at demand, especially when we get into fall, but we didn't even touch on the supply chain disruptions, which still exist and are going to be evident going forward. So one of the things that we do when we look at, we've always ignored the on order when it comes to your on order. So getting them in is important because we're not ignoring them anymore. We've also using machine learning, and one of the things that machine learning tells us is who are the better merchants. And one of the things we know is some merchants are just better than some people are just better than other people at certain things. If I was a better merchant, I would probably stay in the business, but I'm good with data. But we've learned that some people, we have to respect their buying. And so putting your on order is critical to the plan. It's critical for your cash flow planning because what you have on order becomes a future payable. And it's critical for you to manage, the strategies that you're going to employ. Think about the world as March and April, and then May and June, and then fall. So you've got to be focused not just on where we are today, but as a business owner, you've got to think about where you're going to be 2 and 3 months from now. Some of you may be saying, I hope I'm in business 3 months from now. Well, here's a reason to want to fight the fight. The reason to fight the fight is Retail Dive came out with an astonishing number yesterday. They expect 15,000 retailers to go out of business between now and the end of this. That means for those of you who are last one standing, you have an opportunity to capture a lot of market share. So there's every reason for you to stay in the fight. There's every reason for you to be creative and think about ways. And you have people that you know that are creative, and you have us to lean on, and we're going to share ideas with you next week. So I hope I answered your question, but on order management is extremely critical today. Paul or Scott, if you want to add to that, feel free to.
No, I couldn't have said it better, Mark.
I can put another question. This is from Laura Kleinman. We had the dashboard up there showing the freshness number. What do you want the freshness number to be? I'm assuming that is probably a case-by-case basis, but I'll let you guys answer that.
Paul, you're a fresh guy, so take it away.
All right, I knew that was coming. I can always tell. Depends on the type of store you have. Let's deal with women's boutiques. The fashion business today, Zara, which has rewritten the book on in terms of freshness and inventory rotation, will not allow any merchandise in their store longer than 6 weeks. I don't know what they do with it after 6 weeks, but 6 weeks is it. Within 6 weeks, they're moving it around the selling floor to always make it look new and fresh, and that helps. There was a survey done several years ago and did an analysis on fashion ready to wear and dresses, and essentially it had shown that 10 weeks is the shelf life for your merchandise. And so if that's the case, then the freshness factor that you're going to be looking at is that everything within your inventory at all times need to be less than 10 weeks old. And I know that's something that we need to strive for. It's how Zara became the most successful fashion retailer in the world. The owner of Zara is the third richest man on planet Earth. But he did that through changing the book and understanding the whole idea of freshness, scarcity, which is also part of that. Buy now because it won't be, if you think about it, it come back next Tuesday, it'll be gone. So the freshness that you need to do is to look at your inventory with women, and if you're a women's boutique, at a 10-week cycle. Buy no more than what you can sell within 10 weeks. Rotate inventory every 10 weeks. Mark down within 10 weeks. Every decision you make on freshness is within a 10-week window, because it has been proven that after that, the likelihood of you selling it profitably, if at all, drops dramatically. And I hope that answers your question. If it's a different vertical, it might be a little slower, but not much.
Don't make excuses for yourself. If once the items had enough looks and hits, if the appetite's not there, then accept it and move on.
Well, one of the key things too is that it's measurement. Measurement and constant improvement, and the unique ability in Retail Orbit to look at freshness allows you to chunk away at it, make it better and better and better, and that's what we want to always be achieving, no matter what the class.
Okay, another question. Thank you. We'll take one more question. I think we gave this 45 minutes, but we'll take one more question, and then any questions that you have, feel free to submit them. You can also send questions to send it to support@management-one.com, ONE.com, and just put webinar question, and we'll take care of it and put it on our FAQ. We're also going to create some documents that we'll share too. People have asked a lot of questions about how do I talk to my vendor, and we're going to have one on dealing with your landlord. So we've got a lot of great webinars coming up. And as we create documents and create information, we're obviously going to share that with all of you. One last question, please.
One last one here from Karen Brown. If there's no movement of inventory due to lack of traffic, do we dump what we just purchased for spring?
That's a great question. That's a tough question. When you talk about lack of traffic, you also have to talk about doing business outside. You can't think about traffic in the store because it's not going to exist anymore. At least not for the next 6 weeks, unless you're really good at appointment selling. So I think you've got to look at I don't know how much a markdown is going to motivate a customer to buy anything, but I think there are going to be opportunities to take markdowns on goods. And if you have a e-commerce way to, if you've got old inventory sitting there and you've got a digital platform to sell it, and if you don't have one, you need to get one. Like the first thing you need to do after this call is set that up. I would definitely think about unloading those goods, because right now you want to preserve and create cash. So if you want to use markdowns on old inventory to create cash, and you can do that through a digital platform, I would definitely do that. Paul or Scott, you want to add to that?
I
Scott?
can actually jump in on that
No,
one
I think
too.
that makes sense.
From a marketing standpoint, one good thing, if you do have an e-com store, if you have goods that you're looking to get rid of, it's a great time to utilize bundles, selling outfits, not just items. You can Trojan horse some of your older items in a bundle with hotter items, and it's a good way of getting some of that inventory out and not having to take such a steep markdown on it. Sorry, Scott, I jumped in front of you.
That's a great idea. I think I just want to I'm going to re-hype the meeting on part of why we're putting the Thursday session together is there's got to be other channels for you to be able to sell inventory and generate revenue. And we're really focused on giving you some of those ideas. And the question that you asked is a very good one. Thank you.
Scott, did you have one more before we close it?
Sure, why not?
Oh no, I meant on that last question.
Sorry.
I stepped
Oh,
on your
sorry.
toes.
No, sorry, Nico. No problem.
Okay. I definitely want to be respectful of everyone's time. We allotted 45 minutes for this, and we definitely went a little bit over, but I do have questions that are coming in. We will address those directly in our FAQ and by email for all of those folks. So thank you to all of our panelists for coming on. Thank you to all of our attendees.
Nico, I did want to say one thing. On a lot of those questions, maybe we can take the ones that are appropriate for the Thursday webinar and include those so that we can answer those questions on Thursday.
Absolutely. I see two of them actually that are going to go into the Thursday webinar.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you for your friendship, your loyalty, your support, being there for us and with us. From the bottom of my heart and my team and our affiliates, we really do appreciate you, and we're with you every step of the way. Thank you.